In a small village nestled between green hills and flowing rivers, there lived a kind-hearted woman named Ireti. She was known for her gentle soul and unwavering faith in the power of family. After years of waiting and praying for a child, she was blessed with not one but two children, a boy and a girl. They were her joy, her pride, and her world. She named them Taye and Kehinde. Taye was the older twin, but Kehinde, his sister, was always the stronger one. They were inseparable from the day they were born. While Taye was quick to smile, soft-hearted and gentle, Kehinde was fierce, protective, and more conscious in her ways. The bond between them was something extraordinary, as if their souls were meant to be together forever. But fate, as it often does, had other plans. Ireti's health had been delicate throughout her pregnancy. She had never fully recovered from the toll it had on her body. 2 weeks after giving birth, she was still exhausted, weak, and in pain. She eventually passed away, leaving her husband Adebayo alone with her two newborns. Adebayo, though a good man, was shattered by the loss of his beloved wife. His heart ached with grief, but he knew he had to care for his children. The villagers rallied around him, offering support, but the sadness was too great to overcome. The twins grew up without the warmth of their mother, but their father did his best to raise them with love. As time passed, Adebayo's heart began to heal and he eventually remarried. His new wife Modupe was a woman from a neighboring town. She was beautiful with a charm that captivated everyone, but there was something about her that felt off. She was gracious, yes, but there was a coldness in her eyes when she looked at the twins, especially Kehinde. She didn't see them as her children. Adebayo, blinded by his need for companionship and comfort, didn't see Modupe's resentment. He thought he had found happiness again, but his children were not so sure. Kehinde, with her sharp instincts, could feel the tension between them. She knew something was wrong, though she couldn't understand exactly what. The years passed, and Modupe's bitterness grew. She became more and more distant from the twins. Her kindness became thin as she plotted her moves in secret. She wanted to be the queen of the house, and she would stop at nothing to ensure that Taye and Kehinde were out of the picture. She began to poison their meals, secretly lacing their food with a slow-acting poison, hoping that they would die. Taye was always trusted, so he didn't suspect a thing. The first time it happened, Kehinde had no appetite. She was never much of a foodie and often left the table early. That night, as she watched her brother eat, she felt a strange unease. She tried to warn him, but Taye brushed her off, not knowing that death was creeping toward him with every bite. After that day, he fell ill and the family rushed him to the hospital, but it was too late. It had already circulated in the system. A year passed, and Modupe's frustration turned into full-blown rage. First, she had tried everything to take in, but never for once had she missed her period. Then she also tried everything, traps, tricks, and dark magic to get rid of Kehinde once and for all. But every time, something would stop her. In fact, strange things started happening in the house. That didn't scare her because it is often said, who the gods wants to destroy, they'll first make mad. Adebayo too also noticed the strange occurrences around the house. He couldn't explain why things would break or why food would just spoil. He couldn't ignore the deepening inside him between him and his daughter. His love for Modupe had blinded him to the truth. One night, Modupe prepared another early-to-grave meal. She spent huge amounts of money to make it irresistible. She thought she had finally outsmarted Kehinde. She watched from a distance, waiting for her to take a bite, certain that this time her plan would succeed. But as Kehinde scooped the food, it fell. She lifted a glass of juice, but the glass shattered before she could drink, spilling the poison liquid onto the floor. Her brother's ghost was somewhere supervising all the happenings. Kehinde stood up and apologized to her stepmother, telling her that she didn't mean to. Before she could complete her statement, Modupe just walked away, knowing that her wicked plans had scattered. Days passed and Kehinde began to feel someone's presence. She couldn't explain it, but she could sense a protective energy around her. And at night, when the moonlight streamed through her window, she heard whispers. But when she turned to listen, there was nobody there. She called out, but no one answered. This continued for a long period of time. Modupe on her part refused to give up. She decided to keep on trying until Kehinde journeys to meet Sai, her brother. One afternoon, as Kehinde sat alone in her room, she entered with a tray of food and with a forced smile. "Kehinde, my dear," she called out sweetly. "I've made your favorite food today. I know how much you love it." Kehinde remembered her last experience and quickly sensed something was off. She eyed the food suspiciously. She felt a deep urge to refuse the food, but Modupe's presence made it difficult to say no. "I am not hungry," she replied softly, trying to sound polite, but Modupe wasn't having it. Now," she coerced. "Just eat something small for me. It's a special recipe. I am sorry for how I walked out the last time. Let's take this as a meal of reconciliation." Even a blind man could see that Modupe was up to something. She stayed back just to make sure Kehinde eats the food. Kehinde on her part tried everything she could at that time to make her leave, but Modupe understood what she was up to, and so she switched to unnecessary gist. With the ease knowing at Kehinde, she reached for the food, but the moment she put it into her mouth, a loud crash sounded in the room again. The plate shattered into pieces, littering everywhere. Modupe gasped, her face showing a flicker of frustration before her smile returned, tight and forced. "Oh, how clumsy of me," she said quickly, picking up the pieces. "Let me get you another one. It's nothing." But Kehinde wasn't fooled. She felt a shiver run down her spine. The plate had broken just as she was about to eat. This wasn't the first time, and she could have sworn she heard a faint whisper. "Don't eat it." Before she could think further, Modupe had returned with another food. This time, it was a plate of rice and stew, and it was also inviting. "See," she said to Kehinde, scooping the part she knows wasn't poisoned into her mouth. "In case your mind is playing games already because of the reoccurrences, there is nothing in the food." She chewed and swallowed and even drank water. This singular act wiped the doubt in the heart of Kehinde, and as she reached for the plate, the edges of the plate cracked loudly, splitting into halves. The rice spilled onto the table, and the stew splattered everywhere. Modupe, now visibly annoyed, snapped. "Kí ló ṣẹlẹ̀ báyìí? Kehinde, what's happening? Why are you wasting my food? What's wrong with you this witch? This is the third time." She wanted to say that I have tried to eliminate you, but she quickly controlled herself and said, "Kehinde, don't you trust me?" Kehinde looked at her and said, "Mommy, I should be the one asking you. Am I a threat to you?" Modupe quickly stepped out of the room without answering. A week later, her patient ranting. She had tried every method she could think of to get rid of Kehinde, but the girl kept surviving. Every attempt was thwarted by some invisible force, and her desperation was beginning to show. This time, she turned to someone who would help her, a young guy who was known in the vicinity for notorious things. The plan was simple. She would send Kehinde to the supermarket at night, telling her it was an errand she needed to run. And as soon as Kehinde leaves the house, the man will be waiting at a particular spot on the road, ready to strike. He will run over her with his car, making it look like an accident. The set day came, and Modupe sent her out at exactly 8 o'clock p.m. As Kehinde walked towards the gate, she felt a strange sense of unease. She could feel the presence of someone. She turned but found no one. She became so afraid. Just then, a car appeared at the end of the street speeding towards her. Kehinde didn't hear the engine until it was too late. The car's headlights almost blinded her. It was too fast and coming straight at her. Her instinct screamed at her to run, but her feet couldn't move. Out of nowhere, a gust of wind slammed into her, pushing her back. She stumbled and fell to the ground. But then the wind changed direction and the car began to swerve uncontrollably. The car veered off the road, its tires screeching as it turned sharply. Suddenly, it crashed into a nearby tree. The impact was loud. It uprooted the tree. It broke the windscreen and sped north the driver. People gathered and found him dead. Kehinde scrambled to her feet. She was so afraid. She didn't understand what had just happened. Few minutes ago, she was in the valley of death, but now she's standing without any scratch. And yet the driver was lying there lifeless. People gathered around her congratulating her, but she heard nothing because she was still lost in her thoughts. The following day, war spread through the village like wildfire. Modupe was in doubt as the news got to her. Kehinde, she survived this again? Not just surviving it, she had walked away without a scratch, and then the car and the driver are beyond recognition. How could this be, she asked. Kai, this Kehinde must be a witch, she concluded. So, you think you can escape death, huh? She sneered, her eyes flashing with malice when she saw Kehinde. You think you are so special that you can survive everything. Kehinde stepped back. She had always known her stepmother to be cruel, but this was something entirely different. It wasn't just about the hatred anymore. She didn't understand what was going on with her because to the best of her knowledge, she had not offended her. In fact, she just woke up. Throughout that day, Modupe kept on hissing like a snake. She fasted, but this time her fasting was to be energized to eliminate the obstacle called Kehinde. In that depth of hatred, she began plotting again. Her obsession with ending a life she didn't create grew darker with each passing day. Her desperation deepened and the plans became more deadly. After her fasting and studying Kehinde, she was now fully ready. And I can tell you that this her plan was simply the best of all she had launched. She had crossed all the T's and dotted all her I's. Modupe on her part began to avoid her because she could see the fire in her eyes. She vowed never to drink even water in the house, but what she didn't know was that Modupe had left that era. One cold morning, Modupe was ready to strike again. But as she prepared, she noticed something strange. The air around her seemed unnaturally still, and there was a deep, unexplainable sense of dread in her heart. But she ignored it, focusing instead on her plans. She was prepared to end Kehinde that day or never. As she stepped out, something else happened. The road she was walking down became so quiet. She felt a cold shiver run down her spine, and as she looked around, she felt the oppressive weight of something unseen. She also heard the unmistakable sound of footsteps behind her. She turned sharply, but no one was there. The hairs on her body stood up. She had goosebumps and she became so afraid. Then she heard the voice, loud and clear. Leave her alone, Modupe. You have no power over her. You have taken too much from her family already. She recognized the voice. That was Tai's voice, his dead stepson. She felt a presence hover around her, one she could not fight. She began to panic and she turned to run, but it was too late. The force was too strong. Before she could lift her leg, her feet were swept off from under her and she was thrown back, crashing into a nearby bush. Her body hit the ground with full force. For the first time, Modupe felt true fear, the kind of fear that comes when you realize you are powerless against something far greater than yourself. She laid on the ground, dazed and disoriented. She clutched at her side where she had crashed into the bush. The pain was sharp, but it was nothing compared to the terror that gripped her heart. Now she could feel him closer than ever before. Please, please, I don't mean to, she gasped, her voice trembling as she looked around desperately. She knew deep down that it was too late. Her every attempt to get rid of Kehinde had awakened something far more powerful than her hatred. Her vision blurred. She didn't know when she started crying as she heard him saying, "You will confess. You will tell the truth of everything you have done. How you killed me and how you tried more than 7 times to kill my sister too. You will admit your sins and you will die with them." Modupe tried to scream and to run, but she was paralyzed. Taye's anger was no longer just a whisper, it was a thunderous storm, drowning her in its fury. I never meant for it to go this far, she stammered, her eyes wide with fear. Please forgive me. It's the devil's work. I promise you I have changed. But the voice interrupted her, cold and commanding. Confess now. The words echoed through her mind like a final command. By this time, people had gathered. Yes, I did it. That's true. I did it, Modupe said, raising her hand. People were pitying her. They thought she was insane until they listened closely. I killed him. I also tried to eliminate his twin sister over and over again. She mentioned the numerous times she tried. The one that shook people was when she mentioned she sent the guy to run over Kehinde with his car and make it look like an accident. One person had to throw a stone. But Modupe wasn't done. She was still at the genesis of her wicked acts. When she mentioned that she was on her way out so that the people she had contacted earlier can gain access to the house, abuse Kehinde and then send her on a journey of no return. Trust boys now, they entered into the bush fetching firewood. This time, she began pointing. Taye, please, the pain is too much. They all moved back in fear. Taye care. Make sure she doesn't escape, a few managed to say before moving back. I am sorry, Modupe continued begging. She crawled on the ground. Please forgive me. Please, it's the devil's work. But there was no forgiveness in Taye's voice. There was no mercy. He had waited for this moment for so long, and now Modupe will face the full consequences of her cruelty. Your sins are too great, he said coldly, and you will pay for them. Suddenly, Modupe held her neck with her 2 hands, and within 5 minutes she was gone. Like magic, Adebayo's mind was restored. The charm she had used on him expired. People crossed even her dead body as she was buried in the evil forest. Adebayo apologized to Kehinde for being blind to all she went through in the hands of his wife. She forgave him without any drama, saying it wasn't his fault at all. From that day, she stopped feeling the presence of his late brother. Although it was hard for them to heal from the trauma, but they felt better. And for the first time in years, she could be seen sitting down to discuss with her father. Hey, African Tales by Karma Tribe. How are you all doing? For me, I am doing just fine. Let me even ask you, have you heard of a ghost story before? Like that of Taye in the story? Or have you experienced it before? If yes, let me read from you in the comments what you've heard or what you've experienced. I'm sure there are a lot of curious people like me and will all be in the comments. But before I go, let me say this to stepmothers. See, being a stepmother is a sacred responsibility, not a license to oppress. When you choose to marry a man who already has children, you are not just marrying him. You are stepping into the lives of innocent souls who had no say in their mother's absence or their father's choices. They did not offend you. They did not choose their situation. So why then do you choose to become their nightmare? Every time you treat a stepchild unfairly, you are sowing seeds of pain and trauma that may never heal. Every undeserving slap, every harsh word, every denial of food or comfort, heaven sees it. And when you go as far as plotting or wishing them death, remember this: God is the one who gives life and not you, and He will keep on defending them. Don't forget, life moves in circles. What you sow is definitely what you will reap, and most times it comes back multiplied. That child you hate so well might become the helper your own child will need tomorrow. That life you want to destroy may be the one God has destined to bless your entire family. So why the hate? Let love lead. Choose kindness. Be the reason a child will smile, not the reason they will cry themselves to sleep. If their mother were alive, will you treat them this way in her presence? Whether she's dead or alive, God is watching. So dear stepmothers, instead of being wicked, be a healer. Instead of cursing, be a comfort. Let your name be remembered for good, not for pain. A stepmother can become a second mother. It's a choice. Let's rewrite this whole story we keep on hearing about wicked stepmothers. Ejo, I beg you. If you enjoyed the story, please give it a thumbs up. Don't forget to share your experience with me in the comment section. If you have not subscribed to this channel, what are you waiting for? You know the right thing to do. And until I bring another exciting story your way, it is a goodbye from here, and God bless you.